Podcast. My final day in Florida. I'll get into all that in a second. So, again, Green Bean the Jets fan, the voice of the Jets fans, back for episode 11 already of the GreenBean's Jets Pod Show. And we have a good one today for you. And by we, I mean me, or all the people that live in my head. I guess we can call us we. There's a lot of us in here, so why not? They all want to be heard. This guy's, hey, what about me? What about me? Don't tell him I'm here. You know, that's what's going on in here. It's like a big crazy smorgasbord of personalities that don't agree with each other. They all disagree. What is that? Can't I just have a couple people in here that agree with one another? Nope. It's not how it goes over here. So before we get started, let me thank you, number one, for being here. I do so much appreciate the support. You have no idea how much it means to me. I get so many messages and emails and tweets and all kinds of things from you guys. Some of them hilarious, some of them inquisitive, some of them informative. And I really just want to take a second and thank you guys for that. But you can like this video, or let me say this. You can like this video, or if you're listening to it on like Apple iPods or Google Pods, whatever it is, Podbean, Spotify, Spreaker, any of those, give me a rating. Let them know how great I am. If you don't like me, don't say anything. You don't have to tell them. But anyway, it helps when you guys give me likes and reviews and things like that on Apple. I know you can there's a star system. You can give me stars and say, hey, this guy's all right. That helps with the algorithm. But go ahead and subscribe right here on the channel. As I say all the time, it just takes a second. Boop, one click, boop, and it's over, man. You never got to do it again, and it's done. It's in your past, and it helps a great deal. If you want to follow me on Instagram, it's GreenBean the Jets fan. Twitter, it is Bean the Jets fan. And if you have any interest in following what it is I'm actually doing out here on the road, you can jump over to Full-Time Coaster Tour on YouTube and watch all my videos of all the theme parks. As you may or may not know by now, I am in an RV with my family with the specific purpose of driving around and riding every single roller coaster this country has to offer. And again, you can see that at Full-Time Coaster Tour. So like I said, we are leaving Florida. I've been in Florida since pretty much November. And today is the last day here. We are leaving Florida with our little trip up the coast. I will be up there in the Northeast around May. We're planning a big meetup, get-together kind of a thing, and I'm really hoping that happens while I'm in New Jersey. That'll be awesome. Get Jetnation and Matt O'Leary and Ryan from Jets Talk 24/7 and everybody else involved so we can get together, man, and actually see and meet each other. Wouldn't that be interesting? So anyway, that's what we're doing. But first on the list, I will be hitting Six Flags over Georgia. I cannot be more excited. They're opening this weekend, and I'll be there in a little while, and I'll show you what that's all like. So today's show, we have a special guest. As we get into this free agency period, we're inching closer to the opening of the league year, and that allows the teams to start picking players. It allows teams to start signing free agents, but before that, you're going to see a lot of teams cutting the guys that they do not wish to move forward with, whether that's because of contract, monetary issues, or they don't like their play, or they're not a fit anymore, or whatever it might be. But we're about to see all that stuff going down. So what I did was I reached out to somebody who's another YouTube film guy. He breaks down film for the entire NFL. He's actually based in the Colts fandom. A good guy named Lawrence Owen, and we're going to have him as a special guest today, and we're going to get into talking about the offensive line free agents, the potential for the Jets to bolster their offensive line via free agency, who's out there, what we can do in free agency, and see how that goes. So he's coming up in just a few minutes. Before we do that, I want to talk about a couple of things. One is the press conference, right? So we know there's a lot of buzz about Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh getting together and meeting with press and trying to answer some questions. One thing I'll say is you can already see Robert Saleh is going to be right in line with Joe Douglas. He doesn't feel the need to give up anything. Okay, these guys are pros. They know how to do this. I mean, look, they're both rookies in their new positions. You know, Joe Douglas, he's been here for still under 2 years, but this is his first offseason as the unquestioned boss. So really, it's year one. He has full control of free agency, full control of the draft, full control of the coaching hire, and the full control of the Jets organization without the oppressive input of the Johnson brothers, which is just fantastic. So, and obviously Robert Saleh is going into year one as a head coach, and that brings up guys like LaFleur, first year as an offensive coordinator. The good news is Albrecht has been a defensive coordinator. Our offensive line coach has been an offensive line coach for many years. So there's a couple guys that are solid in their positions. But as far as leadership, we're going in with some fresh meat here, dude. So, but the thing that you can start to see when you pay attention to things is certain traits, right? So a lot of guys get upset when Joe Douglas doesn't answer the question in a way that we would want. I mean, of course, as fans, we all want to hear some things that get us excited. That's good news. But the truth is that it would be silly for him to do that. I even got into a debate not too long ago where somebody called Joe Douglas a liar. Every press conference he gets up there and lies to us. And technically speaking, maybe you're right, okay? And somebody says, "Are you keeping Sam Darnold?" And he says, "Well, Sam's going to be a good pro in this league," and blah, blah. You know, people say that's not answering the questions. And then obviously last year we had the Jamal Adams Jet for Life thing, and then we traded him. The thing is, guys, is that you want your GM not to be tipping his hand. You want them to be smart, know how to answer the questions without giving away what their plan is. Joe Douglas is obviously well-versed in how to do that. It's clear to me. And this is the stuff that you look for in press conferences. You don't really look for, them to give you any real answers. I mean, we take these little nuggets and we try to make something out of them. That's what we really do. It's like, well, he said this and that could mean X, Y, or Z. And look, and that's all fun and well and good and all that. And that's what we're going to do. And we're not going to stop doing it. And that's fine. But what I really look for in the press conference is how are they answering questions? Are they silly, like Rex Ryan would be? Are they stupid, quite frankly, like Idzik? He didn't seem to know a damn thing about the actual game of football, right? Numbers and all that, that's fine. But so you can tell certain things about how they're answering questions. Now, Robert Saleh seems to be in the same mold as Joe Douglas. He's not going to answer the question. He's going to answer it in such a way that, technically speaking, he's giving an answer, but he's not giving you anything that would give an indication of which way he's planning to go. And I like that. I do. It's aggravating. I'll be honest. I would love to know everything the Jets are doing at all times. I would. And I'm still lobbying. New York Jets, if you want me involved in any capacity, I would welcome that and I'd be good at it. Better than 99% of the staff you've had over the last 40 years. I'm better than them. Maybe not the staff currently. I could still be an asset. By all means, if you're interested, bring me on board. I'll help. Damn it. So anyway, they did say one thing I want to talk about here. And you guys, look, everybody's out there right now deconstructing the hell out of this thing. I don't think I need to do all that because it's out there if you want that. But I will say one thing. Joe Douglas is smart, okay? He's smarter than you think he is, in my opinion. And he said this. He said, "My opinion of Sam Darnold has never changed." It's not changed one bit. Now, the thing I'm not seeing, and I looked, maybe it's out there, but I haven't seen it, is what that could actually mean while remaining in the realm of truth. Don't forget, I made a video at the beginning of this 2020 season, back in September, all right, early September, that the rumor that I got from someone was that Joe Douglas really wasn't all that enamored with Sam Darnold as a quarterback from the get-go. Absolutely going to give him a chance. Let him do what he did. He brought in 7 offensive linemen. He brought in 5 receivers and the whole thing. couple tight ends. It didn't work out, but that's, Joe Douglas did what he was going to do. He wasn't going to sell the future of the team for Sam Darnold, but he did bolster the offensive line. It jumped up, 20 points, 15 rating points, whatever. So he improved the offensive line. He brought in receivers. There was injuries, all that kind of stuff. So he did help him. But the truth is that he wasn't committed to Sam Darnold from the word go. That's what the video I made was about. It's on Jetnation's YouTube page. Don't forget to go over there for my weekly videos on Jetnation as well. But that video was put out in September. It was something like, is the conspiracy theory true or something? And let me tell you, you guys beat me up on that one. Everybody said that I was making shit up and all that, and that's fine. I didn't make it up, but I didn't even believe it myself. When I reported it, I didn't even believe it. I was just giving you guys, hey, here's something I heard. Let's take it with a grain of salt. But if you look at the whole process, one of the things was that he never wanted Jamal Adams, and that he decided to trade him at the trade deadline last year when Jamal Adams went around Joe Douglas to ownership to complain or whatever. That was it. Joe Douglas decided that day that I want this guy off my team. Never said as much to us, and that's where people could say he's lying and all that sort of stuff, but he never showed his hand, and look what he did with it. He got 2 firsts and bumped up a 4th-round pick for a 3rd, and he got a starting safety for 2020, who didn't work, but he got him. The other one was that he never wanted Adam Gase, did not believe in Adam Gase. He's his friend, technically speaking, got him the job, but let's not overvalue that. Joe Douglas was going to be a GM that year, no matter what. The fumbling and bumbling with Chris, by Chris Johnson, keeping Maccagnan for a little too long and all that, actually worked in our favor because we weren't a part of some sort of competition and feeding frenzy for Joe Douglas's services. So that weird middle of the season firing of Mike Maccagnan gave us the ability to negotiate with Joe Douglas without the intrusion of other teams. So it worked out for us. But even if it didn't happen then, Joe Douglas was about to be a GM. He was the next guy up. He was being looked at by numerous teams. The Eagles had already denied certain teams. I think one was the Saints. I forget who it, maybe Panthers. Forgive me, but it was a few teams asked to interview Joe Douglas, and they refused the year before. So the next year they weren't going to be able to refuse again, and he was going to be a GM. So the whole Adam Gase got him his job thing was overblown. And guys like us over here that make this content, most of us felt that way, that the friendship was overblown. But the rumor that I heard was that Adam Gase was never really all that impressive to Joe Douglas. He was going to let him do what he did. Give him, hey, here's the types of players you want. Fine, I'll give you these guys. We'll cut guys you don't like, the whole thing. And then we'll see how you do. And he was atrocious. So he allowed Adam Gase to cook his own goose. He waited out the Jamal Adams thing and got maximum value for a safety who quite literally can't catch. Okay, I don't know what that's about anymore. I mean, that guy cannot catch. 4 years in the league, has never picked off a starting quarterback in the NFL and didn't have one pick the entire year. I know people say, that's not what he does. That's not what he does. He's a defensive back. So if the ball hits him in the face, he's supposed to catch it. If it hits him in the chest, he's supposed to catch it. He's a defensive back. The guy got, 7.5. He broke the record for sacks. Seven sacks in 16 games. That's not changing anything, guys. So anyway, he got maximum value for a safety that should not have garnered that much in return. And next up is Sam Darnold. And he has maintained a pretty straightforward approach when asked questions about Sam Darnold. Love Sam. My opinion, as a person, love Sam as a person. My communication with him is very, very strong, very positive. My opinion of Sam Darnold hasn't changed. So what could that mean? It could mean, look, I never liked this guy as my starting quarterback. I gave him every opportunity to succeed. He fucking blew it. Okay? Yes, the situation wasn't optimal. Nobody's going to say that it was. Nobody. But the guy, I gave him a chance and it didn't work out. So that's what I'm hearing. It's not like he dislikes Sam as a person or anything like that. But Joe Douglas didn't come here for Sam Darnold like a lot of fans like to say. They think he took the job because Sam's here. That's not necessarily true, guys. And I haven't seen any indicator that would lead me to believe that. So anyway, that's what I'm hearing. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm hearing my opinion has not changed on Sam Darnold. Like I said, I heard that news rumor a year ago now, or whatever it is, and it's all coming true. Okay, so as crazy as it sounded then, it's all coming true now. And that's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing my opinion of Sam Darnold has not changed. I do not want him to be my starting quarterback. I never did. That's what I'm hearing. And he's too respectful and too close to the vest to say anything stupid like that about him. He's not going to minimize the guy's value. He's not going to throw him under the bus because Joe Douglas doesn't do that. Don't forget that mid-season press conference. Everybody knew that Joe Douglas. Dude, Adam Gase was failing in the most monumental way possible. We had not won a game yet. And the press asks Joe Douglas, do you think Adam Gase is a part of the solution? And he said, yes. Yes, I do. You know damn well he didn't, but he's not going to throw him under the bus. It doesn't serve anything. Doesn't creating infighting and all, it doesn't do anything. So why should I give you that information because you asked me a question? Doesn't make any sense. And that's what I see happening here. Again, I don't know if it's true, but that's how I'm hearing it. My opinion of Sam Darnold has not changed. He's not my starting quarterback. He was here when I got here, like so many other players. And I got rid of all of them, right? Tremaine Johnson, Quincy Enunwa, Le'Veon Bell. Who else, man? There's so many guys. Now we got Marcus May up. He's a Mike McCagnon guy, right? You got Jordan Jenkins up, Mike McCagnon guy. Got all these guys up, and I don't know. Look, as much as I want Marcus May, it's starting to sink in a little bit. Like the truth is Marcus May is a very good safety. He's good, but if Joe Douglas is offering him the salary, the franchise tag money. Like, hey, look, I'll give you $9.5 million or $10 million for 4 years, and Marcus May wants 15 because of Budda Baker's contract or whatever it might be. I don't see it. I just don't see it happening. If that's what it's going to be, then he's going to let him go. And then he can be added to the comp pick equation, or maybe he can sign and trade him. If that's the deal. Wouldn't it be something if Joe Douglas turned around, franchise tags Marcus May, and then gets a first for him? Or a high second or something like that? Wouldn't that be good? For a guy who's never going to be your long-term answer because he wants $15 million a year? Again, this is just talking. I don't know. But it's an interesting thing as you watch this guy. A lot of the times, Jets fans, we fashion these emotional attachments to players. One of the common sayings on Jetnation.com's forum is Jets fans overvalue our own players. Okay, and I think that's accurate. Now, I think that there's an undervaluing too that happens, but I think, sometimes a guy will have a good game or he'll have a good preseason, and we wonder why the coaches aren't using him, right? Like, what the hell happened to this? Why isn't he good? Whether it be, so many times with you, Brett Ratliff or, David Clowney, Stevie Anderson, Pat Chafee, all these guys, Atari Bigby, all these guys, and we tend to want them to be good. We want the guys on our team to be good. We want them to be the answer. We don't want to have to keep looking and bringing in other guys. So I think a guy like Marcus May has proven he's a damn good ball player. But I don't think, again, that he's so good that he overrides the safety value points, like where they should be. Your safety, when you're looking at the healthy construction of your budget for your team, when you start giving, you value a position, when you start going over that and paying guys because you're emotionally attached, I like this guy though, he's good, he's a good team guy and this and that. When you start doing that, it starts to trickle down and starts to ruin your ability to do other things in other areas that may or may not be more important, right? So it's just, I'm starting to see some cracks. And that crap that the agent came out with last week, doesn't sound like a normal discrepancy, normal disagreement. The words he used were they refused to take care of him. So is Joe Douglas not even offering what the franchise tag is? Like, look, if you're going to sign for 1 year at $10.5 million, that's fine. That's the franchise tag. But I'm not giving you 4 years at that. I'll give you 4 years at 8.5 or something. Who knows what he's doing, right? That could definitely be received at the Marcus May camp side, that this guy doesn't want to take care of us. We've suffered and sacrificed and all this stuff for the Jets organization. This guy doesn't care. So that's more what it sounds like to me. It doesn't sound like the Jets are offering $11 million and he just doesn't want it. That's not what that sounds like. Again, it's all posturing and all, maneuvering and negotiating, just like Joe Douglas said, and I said it in my last video. It's, the guy came out and said, this is bullshit, and Joe Douglas said, yeah, I love that guy. He's a great guy. This is just normal stuff. He wouldn't throw him under the bus. Wouldn't say, screw that guy. The guy's an asshole. He's asking for $16 million a year. He didn't do that because it doesn't serve him. It doesn't serve a purpose. So, but that brings us into the free agency, and we'll go from here into my guest. So, a couple guys are getting cut, man. Guys are getting cut. Isn't it fun to see? Some are surprising. What do you think of Alex Smith getting cut, guys? He was the comeback player of the year. Who didn't feel good about Alex Smith coming back and getting back on the field and playing well? Who didn't feel good about that? I did. Comeback player of the year, cut. And you saw that interview with Alex Smith last week. He said, my coming back was not on the plan. It was not a part of many people's plans here at the football team. So anyway, that's an interesting one. Where do you think Alex Smith goes? You think he's a kind of guy you want to sign as a backup? From what I heard, he wants to try to be a starter. I don't know how many teams are going to be giving him that option. I think he'll be a backup. He'll sign, and that's where he's going to be. Would you be interested? I'd be interested in Alex Smith, I think, as a cheap backup. I don't know. Who else? You got BJ Finney. What do you think of him? He could fill a need. From what I understand, he had a rough year, considering. And, a lot of guys, it's a weird year, man. It's tough to bank on anybody's performance this year, But he's one of those guys where, and this is where, like I say it all the time. You guys hear me say this all the time. I hate the idea of signing Steelers free agents. Right? I just hate it. They're one of those teams that when the player leaves the Steelers, more times than not, they don't play as well as they did in Pittsburgh. And the list goes on. I mean, their list is so long of guys. They might still be good, and there's a few guys that maintained it. But overall, Steelers that leave don't play as well for their new teams. He's over in Cincinnati for 1 year, and they're cutting him. What does that tell you? You have a few guys that are pretty interesting. What about Desmond Trufant? The Lions have told him that he's going to be cut as well. Interesting stuff, man. Interesting stuff. He might be somebody to consider. You have Golden Tate from the Giants. There's some rumblings about Zeitler, and this is a guy that I talked about a couple podcasts ago. About he's the kind of guy that if you were looking for a guard, like let's say you're going for Joe Thuney and he's just too much. He's like, I want $21 million or something like that. And then he's got the Bears or somebody willing to pay it. And Joe Douglas is like, that's just crazy. I'm not doing that. Zeitler is the kind of guy that you might be able to throw a pick to the Giants. Like they're going to have to cut him mostly. He doesn't look like he's willing to renegotiate his contract. And you throw them a pick. You give them something. You give them a fifth or something like that, a fourth. And you bring over a guard that's good. He's a good guard, man. The Golden Tate, I don't really have any interest. And now Josh Gordon was officially cut from the Seattle Seahawks. This poor guy. I got an editorial I wrote on him. It's going to be on my website, GreenBeanJetsFan.com, which is live. If you guys want to go over there, you can see there's like a collection of all the videos, and there's some merch and all that kind of stuff there. But I'm adding blogs and other editorials and things like that on GreenBeanJetsFan.com. But Josh Gordon's an interesting one for me because, as you know, I'm in the addiction field. I've been in the addiction field for the last 15 years, mental health. And he's watching how the NFL and teams have handled his case is of interest to me. So I wrote some things about it. And anyway, but I just saw this morning, so he went and signed with the Zappers from the fan-controlled football league, whatever that is, arena football. And he scored the winning touchdown on a Hail Mary. Good for a Hail Mary. Good for you, Josh Gordon. I think they were calling him Flash Gordon over there. I don't know what that is. But good for him, man. I'm happy. He's not a guy I think the Jets should pick up anyway. But it's nice to see that he landed on his feet. And maybe that's just where he needs to be, man. Just, hey, look, you can still play football. You'll get your money. He's going to be like the biggest name over there and that kind of thing. And just keep the NFL spotlight off of you and maybe you'll do better. Just do what you got to do. Tight end Jared Cook and Josh Hill. The Saints are getting rid of their tight ends right now. But so another thing they did is you saw that they renegotiated Demario Davis, who took a $5 million pay cut to stay with the team. And that's the luxury that good teams get. I don't see them getting under the $100 million that they are over the cap without cutting some guys, but it's nice to see. So you got Drew Brees doing his thing, got Demario Davis taking a pay cut. So you have guys for the Saints that are willing to do it for the team, at least to some degree, probably defer money to later. So I think a few players will do that. Like, hey, look, while the salary cap's going down, we will drop your pay, and then we'll defer it to next year, and hopefully the cap goes up, and you'll get it back. So if you're a good team with a good record as far as handling your players, maybe guys will be willing to do that. We do not have that reputation yet, especially as we deal with Marcus May, right? But Marcus May is not a Joe Douglas guy, and I think you're going to see a different response and approach to the guys Joe Douglas brought in himself, especially through the draft. You guys all know tight end Kyle Rudolph, who I do like. He's a little older, but I like Kyle Rudolph, man. He had a down year, but I think he'd be a nice guy to consider. Remember, these guys are cut, so they're not just the free agents. They would not count against the comp pick equation, which is good. The more guys you can sign like this, the more likely it is that you're going to get free picks from the NFL next year. And I think that should at least be part of our thought process. What about this one's a big one for us? Buster Skrine. I can't believe it. Buster Skrine was released. Oh, so here's one that really interests me. Now, he's not cut yet, but they've informed him that they are going to cut him, and that's Kyle Van Noy. Versatile guy. He has played the middle linebacker. He's played weak side. He's played strong side. He's played outside linebacker in a 3-4. And the guy's good, man. The last 2 years, he had 6 and 6.5 sacks. So, to me, it looks like he might be hitting his stride. Now, he got drafted in 2014, so he's 6 years in the league. That's not old by any stretch. And I think having a solid linebacker like Van Noy next to Mosley, we can just wrap that one up and then keep guys like Hewitt and maybe a draft pick in the 4th, 5th round. There's going to be some good ones, maybe even the 2nd and 3rd, that kind of thing. And bring guys in for the pipeline and start grooming guys. So Miami is looking to trade him. Now, don't forget, we have a little bit of a history with the Miami Dolphins since Joe Douglas has come on board. He traded for Kalen Ballage. It didn't work because he failed a physical, but we did work with them. The trade was agreed upon. We already had it all worked out. So it does lead me to believe that a trade could be possible, and I would like to see Kyle Van Noy. It all depends on what they're going to want. That he's the perfect guy, like we were talking about, we've accrued these 5th and 6th round picks. We have 8 over the next 2 years, okay? 5th and 6th. Send them one. Send them 2 of those and bring in Van Noy. You know what I mean? That's the kind of guy. So again, it doesn't count against the salary cap. The comp pick equation. And it's bringing in a guy who was going to be cut. You don't fight with the rest of the league. You just bring him over and add him to your roster. Kyle Van Noy is a guy I think would be a fantastic fit here. Plays well, very versatile, hard-nosed guy, sure tackler, gets his sacks. And that will lead us to our guest. Now, that was the guys getting cut so far. I'm keeping an eye on my cuts tracker, and we'll see where that goes. I'm really interested in seeing who the Jets cut. See if our offensive line takes any hits with Alex Lewis and Van Roten and Andrew, whatever his name is, Johnson. What is it? Andrew Thomas? Josh Andrews. There it is. Josh Andrews. Let's see if our offensive line takes a hit, but I think depending on who we get in free agency, it might be smart to hold on to your guys in the event it all goes sour. But if it does if you are able to get a Joe Thuney, if you are able to go bargain bin hunting and get some guys that are a little bit younger with some upside, then it might be good to release some of the guys that you brought in on a temporary basis last year. Let's see what we do, but that will lead me to my guest today. I want to give you one disclaimer first, okay? As you know, I've been traveling around this great country of ours, and I've been in the swamps and the Everglades of late. Internet is not the best thing. The good news is Lawrence, my guest, came through crystal clear. I don't think I've ever seen a more clear picture. But me, I'm a little bit sketchy. Overall, it's good. The content's good. The sound's good. You can see and you can hear it. Everything I want you to see and hear. But again, hey, what are you gonna do? I'm a little choppy. So just bear with me as we get you the content I want to get you. And let's say hello to Lawrence Owen. Well, hey, everybody. I want to thank you for stopping by to hang out with me today. Today's a very special episode of GreenBean's Jets Pod. I could not be more excited. I've been talking to this individual for a little while now. He has fantastic information for you guys. And we're going to go ahead and bring on my guest for today, Mr. Lawrence Owen from the Colts Law Podcast and Lawrence Owen YouTube. How you doing, man? Thanks for coming by.
Hey, I'm doing great, man. I really appreciate you bringing me on here.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I've been floating around your YouTube page for a little while. And so you have a focus on the Colts. Like, that's your main baby. But the truth is that you cover everything, don't you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, for the past year, I have been a sports analyst, film room guy for a platform known as Sportscaster. And I was their main film room guy who broke down different players, coaches, schemes, all that kind of stuff for the past year. And it really got me into the entire NFL, right? I was focused mostly on the Colts when I started, but man, once you break out into the entire NFL, it makes things so much easier knowing who's out there. And, like, for instance, yes, if you cover the Jets, if you followed the entire NFL, you would know, what I'm saying, who's out there during free agency, what to expect more so when you go up to play against them, things of that nature. And yes, it takes more time to cover the entire NFL, but at the same time, I think it allows me to get a little bit more information and a little more detail to those who follow me.
Yeah, and I can see that. Most fans, with respect to all the different levels of fans we have, but most fans are laser focused on their guys. And there tends to be an overvaluing of guys, and they don't really know, who would be the best person to bring in. They might know the big names out there, Allen Robinson, Jadeveon Clowney. They might know those guys. But when they're looking at whether or not their GM is doing a good job, they might not know a lot of the lesser known guys. And if they had a little bit more of an experience with more of the NFL, I could see fans being a little bit more informed, let's say. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, every fan of every team in the NFL, when it comes to like draft and free agents and their GMs or whoever ends up picking guys, and you're like, who is this dude? Well, that's the idea, right? I mean, it's the GMs cover the entire NFL and all of college and CFL and stuff. They know what in the world they're going after. Whereas, the casual fan who, as you say, is laser focused on their own team, when an unknown is signed, they're like, why is he a fit for our team? I don't understand.
Right. Yeah. Like, where did this guy come from? I never heard of this guy before,
Exactly.
So that's really cool. I mean, you have like over 200 videos on your YouTube page. I watched a little breakdown of Sam Darnold when there was some talk of maybe the Colts and the Jets making a trade. You did a really nice breakdown of some of the positives of Sam Darnold, but it goes on and on from there. And you're your YouTube page is fantastic. And, you know, it's good for us Jets fans to pay attention to some of this Colts stuff, because it seems like we have a very open line of communication with the Colts, even preceding our current regime. You know, we made the trade for Henry Anderson. We did, obviously, Nate Hairston and, what was his name? Quincy Wilson. And it goes, it seems like we have your whole defensive backfield at some point.
I think you have 8 defensive players that are ex-Colts. Yes. Or at one point had last year.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So it's really, like, as far as NFL teams go, I think for Jets fans, paying attention to the Colts and what the Colts are doing is a little bit more relevant to what we're doing than maybe some other teams, which is kind of cool, you know? So for today, the reason that you and I got talking is I really had an interest in hearing your take on one of the positional groups that the Jets fans are going to be most keyed in on this free agent period, and that's offensive line. So, you know, rather than just depending on the draft or just building in free agency, I think what we're looking for is kind of a balanced approach, you know? So our interior offensive line was atrocious for the past 3 years. Last year, better, but we still need to make some changes there. And I really am curious to hear maybe the top 5 guys that you think are, number one, the best of the class, but number 2, as we move forward, if you could, you know, a little bit more relevant to the Jets in particular. So the first question would be, how do you view this offensive line class? Is it a good one? Is it top heavy? You know, what is your opinion of the class as a whole?
I think as a whole, this is a very good offensive line class. You got a lot of aging veterans that can still perform. You have some young veterans, you know, and they're about 28, 29, 30, that still has, you know, very good high-end play that you could still have on a roster for 3, 4, 5 years. And there's some young bucks out there that you don't really hear a lot about, but I think they're up and coming. And well, that's more of a film room thing that I have. Guys that you generally won't know and hear of, but those of us who watch film and break them down can see some serious potential in these guys. You might be able to get them for a lot cheaper and yet still acquire really, really good high-level play out of them.
Right. And man, if you could pull that off, if you could somehow be the GM that is able to find the young guy cheaper and then actually be able to get a high level of play out of them, if those are the GMs that can do that, those are the guys that really succeed in this NFL. Because, you know, you can't just throw money at the top tier guys every year. You just can't do it. It never works. And obviously with the salary cap, it limits your ability to address other positions as well, you know? So that's really interesting. So I'm really curious to hear some of those guys, but let's start with the top end. Who do you see as the big dog of this free agent offensive line class?
First and foremost, obviously, 2 of the bigger names out there right now at guard is Joe Thuney and Brandon Sheriff, right?
Right.
2 very, very solid guards. Now, there's a huge thing that I have noticed. If both these guys are available and don't get extensions, don't get tagged, something like that by their respective teams, I'm leaning towards getting Sheriff over Thuney.
Interesting.
Now, the reason being, a lot of times you see offensive linemen come out of New England and get paid buku dollars and then don't perform to that value. It has a lot to do, you've heard it, the Patriot way, yeah. Right? And it happens often where guys will perform incredibly well in New England and then go to another team and just underperform to their contract. Now, do I think Thuney will do that? No, I think he's going to be a very good guard no matter where he's at. But I think he's going to be way overpriced. I think we're looking at a guard that is looking for $17, $18 million a year, right? That's a lot of money for a guard unless you are like the best guard in the NFL. Colts, obviously, they're going to have to pay Quentin Nelson here pretty soon, upwards of $20 million. But that's someone, that they're going to keep him there. Then you know what you're getting out of him already. As much as I think Thuney will do well, that still gives me pause because he's coming out of New England. A guy that I believe will cost less, but you're almost guaranteed to get great production out of him is Brandon Sheriff from the Washington football team.
Right.
I'm still that problem a year later.
It's going to take a while, man. We've been saying that phrase for, 30 something years. That's going to take a minute, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It is. I'm sorry. I was watching film over Brandon yesterday, and oh my goodness. I threw out a tweet on one play that I just watched him take a linebacker. Not only he still has the speed to pull, which is a great thing, even at the age of 30. Still has the speed to be able to pull and make a play. He's got great vision. He's got intense power right up front. He could take a guy, and he's a people mover. I watched him literally block someone so hard that he lifted him straight up off the ground about 1.5 feet and flew about 4 feet backwards off towards the sideline. Had no chance at doing anything, So
Right.
I think you drop Sheriff right there beside your new tackle. That side is set without any question. That side of that line is set. Now, I think Sheriff could play left or right guard, which is a great option for you as well.
Right.
I've heard now I might be mistaken, but you said your team is thinking possibly about moving your center to a guard position.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. We signed Connor McGovern in free agency last year, and he's the center who replaced Matt Paradis over there in Denver. But he was playing guard. His natural position is guard, and he slid over to center and was one of the top 10 centers in the league. So in the event the Jets can just go and get like a Sheriff or a Thuney and then draft somebody like Wyatt Davis, then Connor McGovern, you just leave him at center. But in the event it looks like we have more ability to get a center, we could very easily slide McGovern over to guard without any real issue, because that's his natural position. So that's just something that's on the table for us in the event we failed pulling, let's say we attempt and fail to get Thuney or Sheriff, but Lindsley or something like that is out there from Green Bay. Maybe you can just grab him and slide Connor McGovern to guard, and that's an equally positive solution for us, potentially.
Okay. Now there's other guards out there right now that I think are not as well known as the two that I just named or the one that you named. There's Nick Easton over in the Saints.
Right.
Now he had neck surgery 2 years ago to repair a herniated disc in his neck. And I believe that had an issue with the reason why he had a couple concussions last year. I don't think he was fully healed from that. He's got time to get over that. I think he'll be a much better, more reliable player in the upcoming season. He was released because of that whole situation. He actually had a contract extension. He was his second year into it, and due to injuries, they released him to save cap space. He'll still be being paid off of that due to bonuses. So you might be able to get Easton at a cheaper deal because he's still making money from the Saints. So that's another option that I think would be a good option. Now, there's a tackle guard that I think is a gem out there. And I think the reason I say he's a gem is because he started off drafted as a guard, and then the Broncos moved him to tackle, out to right tackle. And he performed all right, except against the really high-class speed rushers like TJ Watt, right? But to be fair, TJ Watt can make just about anybody look bad once in a while,
Sure.
I think if you are able to get Elijah Wilkinson, who is a young man, he's like 26, I believe, and you bring him in and you put him back at his natural position at guard. The man is huge. He's like 6'6", 320 pounds. Okay. He's got great length. He's got great agility, great speed. I think that you get him inside the tackles rather than being a tackle. I think he legitimately has a chance to become a very, very high performer in the NFL, especially, if you've already got a very solid tackle beside him already. So that's one guy I have a lot of I don't know. I believe in him quite a bit. I wouldn't mind the Colts taking a shot on him because, as you know, I think he still can perform at tackle. He just needs to learn a little bit about his leg work, his footwork on moving outside against speed rushers. But you don't have that problem at guard. His head is always on a swivel, which means when you're dealing with teams that do a lot of delayed blitzing or run a lot of defensive line stunts, he'll recognize it and react quickly. And you need that out of your interior big time because let's face it, when you have guys like Bud Dupree, TJ Watt, or Von Miller or something like that, and they run a lot of stunts, that's going to be something that they're going to have to keep an eye on, or you're going to get pressure up the middle just the same way that Darnold had over the last couple seasons, and it's just going to hurt the team long term.
Yeah, right.
So
that's funny that you say that, though. But let me just on that point. That was one of the biggest issues with our line play the last couple of years was their inability to pick up the stunts. I mean, they were absolutely out of position very easily. They would pick up the wrong guy. I mean, it was very easy to fool the Jets' interior offensive line, which is why Darnold was getting flushed out of the pocket so much because the interior had a very hard time picking up stunts. Their communication was way off. And so having a guy that's one of the strengths would be an asset for us for sure.
Yeah, well, Elijah Wood, like I said, he's 6'6". He's got a huge wingspan. And from what I've noticed, that even if you're playing a zone blocking scheme, say, he'll be able, if no one's directly in front of him, he's able, because of his long wingspan, to reach out and give a hand to somebody else without giving up his position and being able to keep his head up. So that's something that's a huge bonus. Some things that a lot of guards out there with shorter arms just aren't able to do.
Yeah. Well, that's the stuff you hear about it all the time. A guy, he looks really great in college, but they talk about, 3 inches. His arms are 3 inches shorter than somebody else. And he's a 5th round pick. And the guy with 3, he's a 1st round pick. And sometimes you can get like, what the hell are we talking about here? But you're bringing up a great point. This is where it has an impact. Your ability to do certain things, those inches really add up. Hand size, vertical jump, arm length, these things. This is what takes a good football player and makes them a good NFL player.
Yes.
It's those details.
All right. So I got 2 centers that I've got on here on my list that I believe if you decide to move him back to his natural position at guard, I have 2 centers that I think that could come in and play incredibly well. Now, they're 2 completely different style centers. One is a smaller, quicker center who is very highly intelligent. Now, he's not great in the power man, like the man scheme blocking, but he's great in a zone scheme blocking. And the New York Jets are very familiar with Ted Karis. Correct. I mean, he's a Miami Dolphin.
Yeah.
He's he's not a people mover by any means. You don't expect him to be able to just push guys around wherever he wants. But he's incredibly good at pass protection up the middle. He's able to read a defense. He's able to notice when delayed blitzes or if a guard is out of position, he's able to say, hey, look right over here. You need to make sure you keep an eye on him. That kind of thing. He keeps his head on a swivel no matter where he's at. He's got really, really good hand placement. He keeps his back properly formed so that he's not able to be bull rush too much. Like I said, he's not super, super strong. So he has to use technique in order to keep himself from being pushed back so that the quarterback can step up into a pocket whenever it's needed. And it's very important for a center because you're dealing with your defensive tackles at that position 99% of the time.
You think he would come a little bit cheaper?
Yes, I really, really do. I think that's a center that you could probably get for anywhere between $6 to $8 million a year and get quality performance out of them, especially if you got your guards locked up, right? If you got your guards locked up, then him sitting at center would be a great, great move. Now, the other center I have was actually let go by the Ravens last offseason. And this guy is completely different than Ted. Matt Skura that came out of the Baltimore Ravens. He is a power man blocker. He is a guy that you put him up. He's a center. He's a very good center, but he's a people mover. He's got a lot of power. If you're wanting to go kind of lean a little bit into the run game, this man can move 330-pound defensive linemen like they are, cornerbacks. He is really, really powerful. Has good hand usage. But again, he's kind of got a bit of a tunnel vision. So again, you need good guards in order to have him there, because if he is susceptible to exactly what we were talking about earlier with like stunts and stuff, because he'll have a tunnel vision. He'll be locked on the one guy and not notice a guy coming off to the side of him.
Gotcha.
So you will need, like a Brandon Sheriff or something at guard sitting beside him to be able to help him out if something like that happens. But Skura, again, another guy I think you could get for $6 to $8 million. And as long as you got a very aware guard sitting beside him, you're going to get incredibly elite play out of him, especially if you want to lean on the run game to take pressure off of Darnold or whoever it is that's quarterbacking for the Jets.
Right. Now, let me ask you, any information on why he was released from the Ravens?
Yes, I know exactly. Okay, so I talked to my guy, Joe Nubo for NF Podcasts. He covers the Ravens. And I asked him, I said, look, Skura's a really good center. Why was he released? And he was like, yes, he is a very good center. He's a great blocker, especially in the run game, like I was talking about. But he had 3 snaps. He's not used to long snapping, like, with a quarterback way, because of the simple fact that with Baltimore, they run a lot of RPOs with Lamar Jackson sitting. So you got Lamar Jackson under center 99% of the time. And he just was not consistently snapping the ball to a guy who's sitting behind him 5 yards, right? So occasionally he was, an errant snap here and there. So they released him. I don't think that's a problem with a team that's not going to run an RPO 90% of the snaps. Once he gets into a rhythm of snapping it that way, I think he'll be just perfectly fine.
Yeah. Wow. It's crazy how detailed, like how specific a guy has to be. He's obviously, sounds like he's a very talented young guy. I just looked, he's 28 years old. He's got lots of time, lots of meat left on the bone here. And they release him for those little details and stuff. It's not perfect for the quarterback. That's really crazy, man. I actually, I'm not really all that up on him. I know the name. So hearing about this, I'm actually going to be looking into him a little bit more because of what you said. I mean, that sounds like a good option because, obviously we're going to go for some of these, maybe like a Joe Thuney or what have you. But the truth is that we're going to need to be able to get better play for cheaper if we're going to use this money wisely and be able to get the maximum benefit out of this cap space that we have,
Yeah, that's another reason why I prefer Sheriff over Thuney, whereas I think Thuney's going to get 17 to 18 mil a year. I think Sheriff, you could get him between 13 and 14. So if you could save $4 million and have a very similar production out of a guard and not have the chance of him having that New England drop off, I think that's the best way to go. But at the same time, I think the Washington football team would be having a big mistake if they don't extend him or tag him.
There's a lot of conversation around the Patriots that their offensive linemen are, quite frankly, allowed to hold a little bit more than maybe some other teams. Now, coming from your neck of the woods, do you think there's any validity to that? You think that that might be a contributor to when the linemen leave the Patriots? Like you said earlier, they don't necessarily have the same impact over at another team than they did in New England. Do you think that's valid?
There are not just the Patriots, but other teams like the Kansas City Chiefs who have a philosophy. The refs can't call holding on every play, right? So that's what they do. You know, there's holding on every play somewhere on that line. Now, some guys are taught how to hold and have their body positioned so that the line judge and the back judge don't see where the hold is happening, and they're taught that way. And then when they leave the team, they go to another team and they don't have the very same philosophy. So, you know, they're taught, hey, you can't do that. There's a big rule in sports where it's not broken if you're not caught, right? It's just how it is. League wide, right? So every team in the NFL finds a way to get some sort of an advantage in their own right. So that aspect with like Kansas City and New England, that rolls with them. Whereas maybe another team, when it comes to pass defense, they believe, you know, you can't call pass interference on every play, right? And you might get a little bit of a tug or pull here or there, especially with physical man coverage. But yeah, I think there is a little bit of validity in what you're saying, and it could have something to do with that. It also could just be these guys, they play together for an extended period of time. And that is a huge benefit for offensive linemen to be able to have, hey, I've had the same starting five for 3 straight years, right? They understand the nuances of the guys next to them. So that helps their play out. And so the Patriots are very solid at that.
And no, and that's so important. It makes a lot of sense. I mean, when you look at a team like the Jets, I mean, we had 9 starters on our offensive line in one season. I mean, that's, you know, so when you're talking about, you know, guys playing together for 2, 3, 4 years, I mean, we haven't even had guys play together for 1 in the longest time. This last year was the closest we've seen in probably 10 years. You know, since our offensive lines of 2009, 2010, those guys were together a while. But it's unfortunate. And a guy like Sam, who, you know, 3rd overall pick and all that jazz, talk about not doing a guy any favors. We never got him a quarterback coach, and we never built an offensive line for him. I don't know how the hell we thought he was going to be able to do anything. But it's so important to get your guys, be able to financially make sense with the entire unit, and then get them to play together for a long time. With what you said, I think that's the most important thing that you said all day. It's that cohesive, you know, ability to understand the nuances of how these other guys respond and what they're going to do. And then you can actually telepathically speak with one another and understand. And then you're a unit. Then you're a wall. Like, you know, people say all the time, build the wall. Well, you know, you got to build the wall and have the wall stay together for more than 10 minutes.
Yeah, you can't have a patchwork wall all the time, right? What you say is exactly true. The difference between guys who have not played together and a guy who has played next to the same guy for 2 years or 3 years straight is the difference between being able to handle a delayed blitz or as we was talking about earlier, a stunt, and being able to recognize, hey, this guy beside me has this block solid. Now, and as you say, kind of telepathically, or just get the feel of that block going on.
Right.
He could then move to the second level of the linebackers or the safeties and get a block there to allow a runner to get even further down the field. It makes huge difference even in the run game, not just the pass game.
Yeah, no, it makes so much sense. Like when fans, like you mentioned before, the term casual fan, when casual fans, they look at it and they think, why do we suck so bad? But it's like, it's this type of stuff. It's being able to pay attention to this. And that's why I think this particular offseason is so incredibly important. Joe Douglas has done a good job tearing this thing down the right way, not giving, mega contracts to safeties who can't catch, and and slowly but surely undoing all the negative contracts. But now we have to build. And I think it really does start with the offensive linemen. And you've given some good names, and you didn't just go the easy route with all the, you obviously you have Thuney and Sheriff, but I think a lot of the guys you brought forward are guys that the fans, the guys that watch my show, they're not going to have heard of all that often. And it's really good, man. I appreciate you coming on. I look forward to maybe in the future you coming on again if you have time, but I'm really grateful, Lawrence. I think this was a really positive experience for me and the guys who watch my podcast. So I thank you.
Oh, wow, man. Thank you for having me on. It was my pleasure being here. I have no problem sharing the intel that I gather. I mean, that's the reason why I gather it in the first place, is so that I can give it out to fans and other people. So thanks again.
Right. Yeah, man. So just one last time, this is Lawrence Owen. He has a YouTube channel after his name, Lawrence Owen. Again, he's got over 200 vids. It seems like he puts up 5 vids a week. So this guy's putting out content on the regular, and it's top tier content. It's good stuff. And he also has his podcast. 5 p.m. on Friday is the live podcast, but it's also released on Saturday morning, and you can get it wherever podcasts are found. Lawrence, again, thank you so much, and thank you for listening to the Jets Pod. This is Green Bean, and I'll see you next time. Hey, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed my visit with Lawrence Owen. He and I are going to do some things in the future together as well. Don't forget to support his channel as well, Lawrence Owen on YouTube, and he's got his podcasts and all that sort of stuff. He's great, man. I've really enjoyed listening and watching his content. He's good at it. He knows what he's talking about, and he's a good dude. So let's support those guys if we can. But that will bring our podcast to a close today. I want to thank you guys for being here. It's been a good time. I will put all the affiliate links in the description below if you want to check out any of the stuff I'm recording with, or TubeBuddy, or 4K downloader products I personally use and help me get all this done. I find them to be amazing tools. I know they would be able to help you if you're looking to do anything as well. Guys, thanks again for being here. Please don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel, rate me on the podcast platforms, and follow my full-time coaster tour on Full-Time Coaster Tour on YouTube. Have a great day. Let's get into this, man. We got about 2 weeks, and we're going to be rolling into the free agency period right up behind the draft. We're going to get it all going. The exciting time starts now. Inform yourselves. Get to know the players. Get to know the staff. Get to know why it is that we're talking about certain things. Learn this process. It's more fun the more you know. That all said, take care, everybody, and thanks for being here.